Hey guys, Leda here, and today I'm just going to go ahead and get started with sharing my journey with endometriosis. This will be the first video to a 12-part series, if you want to call it a series, I guess, because it's going to be a series of videos discussing my journey with endometriosis. And I'm kind of a little nervous, to be honest, because I've never opened up like this to such a wide audience about so many deep things with endometriosis. But in today's video, I'm going to cover basically how it all started. If you are not into period talk or like pain or female anatomy or just things in general that deal with women's pelvic issues, go and watch my nail art tutorials or my beauty videos or any of my old stuff. All of that stuff is still available as well. But if you don't mind hearing my story, I don't mind sharing it. I got my first period when I was 8 years old, maybe about 4 to 5 months before I turned 9. So technically I was 8 years old, and I knew what a period was. I was educated on it as best as the resources allowed at the time. you know, Women go through this because it's part of a woman's life. It's a part of nature. In order to conceive and reproduce, you must get a period. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm not looking forward to it much, but if that's what needs to happen in order for me to have babies in the future, then, I'm all for it. So when I got my period, my very first period when I was 8 years old, I was not shocked because I got a period like, oh my God, what is this stuff in my underwear? Or why am I feeling these weird sensations, in my nether regions? It wasn't anything along those lines. It was more of a, why did I get murdered, but I'm still awake? I'm able to see it. I'll explain why. I woke up, and I started uncovering myself, and I feel not right. Something just doesn't feel quite right. So when I finished opening up my eyes, I everything was covered in red. Everything was just red. And I thought, like, wow, someone must have like tried killing me in my sleep, or maybe this is a dream and I'm still sleeping, but I'm not sure what is going on. And I am not exaggerating when I say that I was covered in redness from maybe like my belly button down to 4 to 5 inches away from my knees. And at 8 years old, I wasn't really that big or tall, but I had a decent tallness to my body. And excuse the sun, I just realized that the sun is like fading in and out of my room, and it's like kind of distorting the lighting, so I apologize for that. But this is when I can film this tutorial, or not tutorial, this video. I'm so used to saying tutorial, but anyway, I digress. So yeah, I'm thinking to myself like, dude, someone tried killing me in my sleep. What the heck? So I call my mom, like, mom, like that mom that little kids do when they're like in a panic, but not sure whether they should panic or not. And I'm like, mommy. And she like came rushing over, like, oh my God, what's the matter? Because, moms know the different calls that their children have. And she comes in and she's like, oh my God, you got your period. And she gets excited and happy for me. And she congratulates me. And she gives me hugs and she helps me clean up. And she's so motherly and so loving and very helpful and gracious. And yeah, it was a very big bonding moment between my mother and I. And I wasn't suffering besides having heavy menstrual flow and, just general, I guess, moodiness or slight discomfort, only because it's my first period. And I feel like now I have to wear diapers again or a mattress between my legs. It was just really weird to actually experience it for the first time. I wasn't disgusted as much, but it was just weird. Remember, you gotta remember, I was 8 years old. So fast forward through all the years, and down to my senior year of high school, I started experiencing more intense pains, cramping at levels that just were mind-boggling. So I'd go to the nurse's office, she'd tell me to lay down for 10, 15 minutes just to rest up. And I'd be knocked out at the nurse's office for an hour or two during school hours, and she could not wake me up. So that was my experience between, I would say, what is it? When you're 8 years old, you're like what, in like third or fourth grade, all the way up to high school. It just progressively got exhausting to have a period. After I graduated high school, went to college, got a job, I found it so difficult to function as an adult with, college and work. I used to work I remember I used to work at Stearns, which is a store that's no longer around. And yeah, that was an experience. It was a fun place to work at. I had a great boss. But anyway, the people at my job would be able to tell when I was on my period, and not because it's like, oh, I'm cramping or I'm sharing all this information or whatever. It's just, I guess my face could show that I wasn't my normal bubbly self. I was just tired and exhausted. And I finally found a way to calm my pain. I would go to work, I'd have breakfast. My breakfast consisted of M&Ms and a Coca-Cola, and then I'd pop a Tylenol and I'd be fine. So then fast forward, I get married, I have a kid, and my periods, I was like, wow, this is phenomenal. I don't have a period throughout my pregnancy. My most favorite part of my pregnancy was not having a period for like damn near 9.5 months. That was phenomenal. I loved it. I enjoyed it, and I couldn't wait to continue to experience that, because when you're pregnant, you go to the doctor, you go your monthly, weekly checkups. They vary depending on your pregnancy and your journey with that. But I remember talking to, oops, sorry about that. Didn't realize my volume was so up high on my phone. Let's silence that. I apologize. But yeah, so my OBGYN, she said, hey, once you have your child, are you going to consider going on birth control? And I was like, sure, why not? I'm not trying to pop out babies left and right, back to back. So birth control seems feasible at this time. And she's like, yeah, I know that you've said that your periods are kind of irregular, and things are going to normalize for you once you start taking birth control. I was like, perfect. Now I can actually count the days and have an actual normal cycle. I never had a normal cycle prior to birth control. I was on birth control for about, I want to say 4 to 5 years. Yeah, like 4 to 5 years. And, then you start thinking, like, my kid's getting older and things are a little easier now in my life. So I think I could try and conceive again and grow my family. You sit down with your spouse and you discuss, like, hey, should we have more kids? And then they're like, I think so. And you kind of come to an agreement, however it is you discuss it, and you choose to have more babies. And I got off of birth control. I was off for like maybe 6 months before we actually tried starting to conceive, like for real. And then we went into it, and it was fun and it was great. But what happened, like almost 2 years go by and we don't get pregnant. I don't get pregnant. Like nothing is happening. I ended up switching doctors, and the doctor finally listened to my concerns. Something that was happening with me was that even though I was on birth control and my cycle was predictable and I knew when I was going to get a period, I was suffering from really horrible cramps, horrid pains, nausea. I'd get seriously constipated, or I would get serious diarrhea. There was never like something normal, never, when I had a period. So, throughout the years, as I'm talking to an OBGYN and switching here and talking to this person and looking up information, no one really believed that I could be in that much pain. And I even had a doctor, oh my God, I had a doctor one time tell me, I think you're making it a little more than what it is. You've already had a child, and that's the worst pain that you can go through. And for you to tell me that your period pains are worse than your child labor pains don't make sense to me. And I think you're making it more than what it is. It's probably all in your head. Just look for something fun to do, have some chocolate, have a cup of tea, and it'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just don't think about it. Don't think about it. That's what I was told. It's all in my head. I'm making it up. You have no idea how disheartening it is to go to someone for help, to seek their wisdom, and you have all this knowledge. You went to school to practice medicine. You went to school to learn about things. You're the one who has the license to practice medicine, a diploma up on your wall, and you're calling me crazy. You're saying that it's in my head, that I'm making it up. But here I am in the hospital on morphine because the pain is too much. On amounts of morphine that if the doctors in the ER were to give me more, it's not possible. They literally told me it's against the law for us to give you any more pain medication. You're on the highest possible dose. And I'm still feeling pain. So I go to my OBGYN to explain this, and he says, it's all in your head. How does that work? I don't get it. But, I thought it was, and I tried my best to just continue to grin and bear it and be a mother and a wife and an employee. And throughout those years, I just started getting so depressed and so alone because you're feeling something that you're having trouble explaining. You know something isn't right. You know something is wrong. I mean, who better than you to know your own body? And here everyone is saying it's all in your head. So I did my best. I did the best I could. And so, go forward a couple more years. I switched doctors for the last time. I'm like, I've got to find someone who's going to hear me, who's going to know that what I'm saying isn't made up, that I'm not looking for attention, that I'm not seeking pain medication just to pop them left and right like candy. I really need help. I went to this new doctor, and right away, they were able to see that something wasn't quite right with me. And they asked me, like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just here for my, normal checkup. And I do have some concerns in reference to my menstrual cycle. And they're like, all right. So they sat down, they took notes. I told them everything basically that I've told you guys in much more detail. I mean, this appointment lasted like about an hour. This doctor gave me so much of his time to just hear me out. He examines me and says, I'm not 100% sure, but everything you've described to me sounds like something that's called endometriosis. And I was like, I've never heard of that. What is that? And he kind of gives me a quick rundown. And I'm like, wow. And he's like, but don't take my word for it. In order to get properly diagnosed, you need what's called a laparoscopic surgery. And then he explains what that is. But he says, before we do anything else, before anything else happens, before I give you any medication or change your birth control or any action, we need to do an ultrasound, because an ultrasound will start giving me a better idea of what's going on in your pelvic cavity. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go for the ultrasound. And he kind of prepares me for this test because it's going to be intravaginal. And it's not just, an ultrasound like pregnant women get where they put the little, I guess, scope or tool, whatever the little scanning item is on your belly with the gel. It's through the vagina. in order to get, I guess, a better look. I'm not an expert, so I'm doing my best to explain how it is for those of you that don't know. And, I go for my test. He says, you were so tender during your pelvic exam in the office that you may be tender for the exam, for the ultrasound. So take some Tylenol before you go, and then, follow the instructions they give you, and everything will be fine. We'll take care of you. Don't worry. I get my pelvic exam. I get my ultrasound. All the tests come back. And everything is jumbled up. Everything is everywhere. Everything is just not right. Before I switched doctors and, went through all this testing, I remember being at work and thinking to myself, like, man, I call out from work so much because of, gastroenteritis. I used to end up in the hospital 5 to 6 times a year due to all the weird issues going on in my system. My system was all thrown off. And, every time I ended up at the hospital, they would be like, oh, it's just gastroenteritis. Just have bananas, rice, apples, and toast, water, and Gatorade, and you'll be fine. Just limit your diet. Give it 2 or 3 days, you'll be fine, and then you can go back to normal, eating all the stuff that you normally eat. I was like, all right. But no one was bothering to look at why I was ending up in the hospital so long. Not so long, but so often. And about December of 2007, I decided, like, you know what? I'm calling out so much. It's flu season. My job's giving the flu shot. And, I need to be proactive because I can end up losing my job from calling out so much. So I'm like, you know what? Put my name down. I'm going to get this flu shot. I get the flu shot, and the lady's like, all right, go sit over there for 15 minutes. I'm like, sit here for 15 minutes. I got stuff to do. I got to get back on these phones. I got to get back to this paperwork I got to do. She's like, no. We got to play it safe. We don't know how you're going to react to the flu shot. So we require you to sit for a few minutes. And then when your 15 minutes are up, you can go back to work. I was like, fine. I'm sitting there talking to a coworker. And now all of a sudden I start getting a little hot. I'm like, is it a little warm in here? I mean, there's a lot of people, but it shouldn't be this warm in here. This is like the coldest room in the entire building. Why am I so warm? She goes, you sure you're okay? Because your face is a little red. I'm like, yeah, I feel a little warm. Maybe this is why they ask you to sit down for 15 minutes. And she goes, are you okay? Are you okay? That's the last thing I remember. Apparently, she got up and went to tell the nurse that was there that I wasn't feeling well. And when she pointed back at me and said, hey, that's the lady that's not feeling well, I was already passed out, falling to the floor. The nurse had to dive to catch me so I wouldn't face plant. From there, they sent me to the hospital, and no one could tell me why I passed out from the flu shot. Oh, and by the way, got sick anyway, had the flu for like a week. So never doing that again, right? Anyway, so when that happened and no one could explain things to me, I ended up switching doctors, right? And then he does all these exams and the testing with the ultrasound, and the results come back, and he says to me, you have a 13-centimeter cyst on your right ovary. Your uterus is enlarged, and your left ovary was not found on the ultrasound. We don't know where it is. And I'm like, whoa, that's intense. I don't know what does this all mean? And he goes, well, you need surgery, and you're going to need surgery really fast because your abdomen looks and feels like that of a woman who's 6 to 7 months pregnant. And I was like, what? No way. There's no way. Are you sure that I'm not actually pregnant? He goes, no, you're not. The ultrasound would have been able to see that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, you know what? I said it backwards. It was the 13-centimeter cyst was on the left ovary, and the right one couldn't be found. So a few weeks after that, I end up having surgery. And when I come to after surgery, he says, guess what? The ovary that had the 13-centimeter cyst, which was actually the left ovary, we couldn't save it. It had taken the place of your uterus. And I'm like, what? How does that even happen? He goes, yes. What happened was I don't know if all of you know the anatomy of, like, let's say, can I do this properly? I don't even know. So let's say this triangle is the uterus, right? And then the fallopian tubes come out like this, and the ovaries are over here somewhere. The ovary had shifted down here underneath the uterus and pushed my uterus up. And it had a 13-centimeter cyst in the ovary. The right ovary and that fallopian tube got twisted around the back of my uterus, and that's why it was not visible during the ultrasound, he explains, because it was hiding. He says, so when I cut you open and I try to like look for things, I can tell that everything is messed up, everything's everywhere. So my first goal was to locate the cyst, remove it, and save your ovary, because that's a pretty substantial size. When I located the ovary and saw that the cyst was inside, we were going to try and remove it and save that ovary. We couldn't. As soon as we touched it, we moved the uterus, we moved the muscle, and we tried to take it out of the place that it was to start working on it, it bursted. Everything went everywhere. We had to do massive cleanup work because all that old blood, as he calls it, went everywhere. As we're cleaning up, we notice that the ovary was attached to the back muscle wall on your left side. And that's why you were experiencing such intense low back pain. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I was like, damn, like now I lost an ovary. Thanks a lot, body. Crazy stuff. And he goes, the right ovary was fine. It was hiding. It was twisted back there. But we brought it forward and we stitched it into place so this wouldn't happen again. We had to kind of close off your fallopian tube on the left side because, you have no ovary there and it was very damaged. So that's not going to work anymore. That side is done. Fine. I recovered from surgery. Everything's, working out okay. And he goes, if you're going to try to conceive, I strongly recommend you go on Lupron. Lupron is a shot they administer to kind of start your body in medical menopause. You don't get a period, you suffer the side effects of menopause, and you just deal with it for a little while. You should be just fine. Once you get off the Lupron, go see a fertility specialist. This way you can conceive without being affected by the endometriosis so severely and preventing getting another cyst on your only ovary. All right, we do that. So that's basically from start to finish my first period to my diagnostic laparoscopic surgery. It was intense. It was a crazy journey. It was something that I was not prepared for. It was just nice to be able to know what was going on in my body, to know that after all these years, after all this pain, after all this suffering, after the calling out from work and ending up in hospitals and all the different things that I had to live through, it felt really good to have a name to what I was experiencing, to know that I was not crazy, that all the bouts of depression that I've had haven't been because I was seeking attention. It was due to all the hormonal imbalances that were going on in my body. It was due to having to endure pain at those levels. I can't say how thankful I was to this doctor for him to be able to put a name to something invisible. That was phenomenal. At that time in my life, I could not have been happier. I thought to myself, finally, an answer. Finally, some closure. Finally, this is done and over with. And that's something that in the moment I I was very joyous. I was so hopeful. But little did I know that that was going to be the beginning. Thanks for hearing me out in this video. Um, I have my notes here and I kind of kept looking at them a little bit. So if I missed anything, I'll probably catch that in editing. But, like I said, these videos are going to be a series on the last Monday of every month this year. I'll be uploading a little section of my endo journey. And I just want you to know, if you're an endo sister, you're not alone. If you're a guy watching this video, thank you for sticking through. Anybody watching this video, man, woman, young, old, doesn't matter. Thank you for watching this video. And I hope that this series and that this particular video has been somewhat helpful to someone out there. And yeah, so I can't thank you for watching, sticking through. I know it came out really long. I'm sorry, but it's just something that I need to do. I'm still trying to make peace with everything that's happening in my life because of endometriosis and looking to define my new normal. All of this is to help me raise the money that I need for the quality care that I deserve. So I will see you guys in the next endo story video. And don't forget that Wednesdays I do my beauty videos. On Saturdays I do my nail art videos. And check out my Facebook and my blog, my Twitter, Instagram, all that social media stuff. We can socialize through there. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.